Hello, welcome back to the Family Table Show. I'm so glad that you joined us today. We're getting really close to Easter, so today we're going to do something really fun. We're going to make donuts, and then we're going to decorate those donuts and put them on a platter and show you how pretty they'll be for Easter, and what a fun time you'd have with your kids making these, and really how good they'll be. Now, I'm always trying different things, and we're into the whole wheat era, and so everybody's trying to move toward that direction. So today what we're going to do is we're going to make the donuts with a flour that's 50% white flour and 50% wheat flour. Now, it may or may not turn out right. We'll just have to see. Hopefully they'll be good and they'll be fluffy enough. They might be a little heavier than what you would expect a donut to be, but they'll be a lot healthier than just one that's made with white flour. So we're going to try that today, and we'll get started with our first set of ingredients, and it's really very simple, and it doesn't take long to do this. It just takes a little bit of time to let the dough rise and stuff, but once you get it going, it's a real fun project to do with your kids. And we don't have really donut shops here, so it's a real treat. And there's a lot of people who say that you shouldn't eliminate anything from your diet, but always make it at home. And this is a little bit more trouble than making like a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, so you wouldn't do it that often. And French fries and everything's that same way. If you do it at home, it takes a little bit more time and a little bit more preparation, so you don't do it as frequently and you don't eat as much. So try not to eliminate anything, but just try to do it in moderation. What we're going to do today is start here with all of our basic ingredients for a yeast dough. And these are going to be like old-fashioned cake donuts. What I've got here is 1/3 cup of Crisco, and this is 1.5 cups of milk that I've heated. And we're just going to pour that over our Crisco, and we're going to let it melt that. So we're going to do that first while we start our other things. So we'll set that over here. And then next, I have 1/3 cup of warm water, and we're going to proof our yeast. This is instant yeast. You really don't have to do it, but sometimes you'll keep yeast a little bit too long. I know I do, because we don't use it all that often. So proofing yeast means that you can put it with some warm water, a little bit of sugar, or you don't even have to use sugar. This is just warm water, and it will prove itself. If it's active, it'll foam up and it'll start bubbling a little bit, and so that you know that you've got a good active yeast. So we're going to put that there and get that started. I'm going to get that just a little bit of a stir there. And you'll see it's going to really change. It's like little granules right now, but it's going to get real puffy in just a few minutes. So we'll get that started. Now what we're going to do is just let this dissolve just a little bit. It really needs to be completely dissolved, and I'm just going to help it a little bit here. Donuts, they've been around for a long time. The Pennsylvania Dutch supposedly are the ones that created the donut that we know that has a hole in it. But when donuts first originated, they were little pieces of dough, and they were about the size of a walnut, and so they were dough or nut dough. And so that's kind of hard to say, and so it eventually came to be known as donuts, and they traveled very easily and people would make them. And so as time went on, they got a little bit bigger, and so in order for them to cook properly, they had to come up with some way by which that the donut could cook in the center as well as on the outsides. And so supposedly the Pennsylvania Dutch are the ones that are credited with putting a hole in the center of the donut so that it has a greater surface area. And so when you fry it, and we'll talk about that a little bit more when we start frying these up, it fries from the center and the sides, and so it's uniform in the way that it cooks, and so it doesn't get soggy with grease. So our Crisco is about dissolved here. We're going to go ahead and start, and you can see that it's supposed to take 5 minutes. The yeast is already starting to foam, so it is good, and so it's proving itself that it's going to be a good yeast for us to use. So we're going to put this in our mixing bowl. We're going to let the mixer do most everything for us today. That is our Crisco with the milk, and that was skim milk that we put in there. I've got 2 eggs. And the reason I'm going to put the eggs in next is because this milk was a little bit hotter than what we want, because if you get your milk too hot, or you mix your yeast with liquids that are too hot, it'll kill the yeast and then they'll quit working. So I'm going to go ahead and put the eggs in to cool that off some. I'm going to put our salt. I've got 1.5 teaspoons of salt. I'm going to go ahead and put that in. I've got 1/4 cup of sugar, and we're just going to sprinkle that in. And you see how our yeast is still working here, and we're going to let that continue to work just a little bit there. Now, donuts that we buy in the like at Dunkin' Donuts and Krispy Kreme and places like that, they use leavening agents to get the rise, and it's not a yeast one, but you can get cake donuts there, and the cake donuts are the ones like we're going to be making today. We're also going to be putting some edible flowers, and we'll talk about that a little bit. We're going to be decorating with some sprinkles and some coconut and some lavender, and so all this is just going to make a very pretty presentation for our Easter. Now also, these have like nutmeg. Nutmeg it's actually the seed of a fruit, and around this seed is a coating that's red, and that coating is taken off, and it's the spice mace. And then this on the inside is the nutmeg. And the nutmeg has been highly valued, and there was like all kind of wars and, you know, disputes between countries over the taxing and importing of nutmegs and spices. And, you know, spices have just always had a value, you know, internationally. And right now, I think they were originally just in Indonesia, but now they're cultivated in most tropical areas. They can be cultivated, and so there's plenty of nutmeg. Don't use the one out of the can. Just get whole nutmeg. Like I say, it's a seed. It doesn't even have to be stored in a container. I do store mine. I have a thing full here. They'll last for a year or so, or longer. And then this is just a zester, you know, for citrus and stuff like that, a little tiny fine grater, and I'm just grating it right in there. And about a half of a nutmeg seed is about a teaspoon, and that's what we're going to put in here. So we got this going. Right. Now I'm going to go ahead and put my yeast in because my milk is cooled down. I'm going to put all that in there. And all this you can find on our website at wethealth.com, and on the website you'll find links to YouTube where you can also watch this, and then to the blog. So what we're going to do here, I've got 3 cups of the flour. That's a 50-50 mix, and I'm just going to go ahead and put about half of this in here. And then we're going to take this over to the mixer. This is a stand mixer that's just got the paddle on it, and what we're going to do first is start it very slow so the flour that we have in there won't just poop up everywhere. And believe me, I've pooped it many times. I have had such messes in here you wouldn't believe it. On myself and everything else is in here. So what we're going to do, we're going to bring this up down a little bit in speed, and we're going to blend it nicely. Now I'm going to add the rest of our flour, and I'm going to blend that. And when we get this blended so it's nice and smooth, we're going to change to a dough hook. And when we come back from a break, I'm going to show you what it looks like with the dough hook in there, and when it starts pulling away from the sides of the pan, when it's ready to come out so that you can let it rise again. And so I'll see you in just a few minutes, and we'll show you what that looks like.